I need your help. I have f***ed up real bad and need some guidance or advice as to how sort this out. If any of you relate to my position or has seen someone in this mess, please share your thoughts. I am a female, 26-year-old woman who has been married to my husband, 35, for 3 years now. I'm going to call him G here because I can't reveal his real name. We have no children. My husband owns an investment firm. He's sort of a big deal in Wall Street. I met my husband when I was interviewing him for my college magazine. I was doing my major in journalism and was the topper of my batch. My professor told me it would be great for me if I could snag an interview with the chief guest of the event that was going to happen in our university. I was a dedicated student, you know, the type who studies all the time. That was me. I called his office many times only to be told that he's busy and didn't have the time. Anyone else would have given up, but not me. I went directly to his office and told his secretary, who smiled at me with fake politeness, that I was going to wait as long as it takes, but I wasn't going to leave without meeting him. She told me to wait in the reception area and that she'll let me know if he gets free. I kept waiting for him when suddenly he came out from the opposite end of the floor. He was in a 3-piece suit. I thought only rich people in movies dress up like that. He had people making way for him while he was talking to another guy about something. I had never seen him before or even his pictures or something, but there was something about him which made no confusion as to who is the CEO of this company. He had this aura of authority with him. He commanded the room just with his presence. He stopped when he came near me. He looked at me in confusion, probably wondering what I'm doing here. I looked completely out of place in that office in my cashmere sweater and jeans and sneakers, while everyone around me was dressed in very expensive suits and dresses. I stopped staring at him and introduced myself. I told him that I'll take a few minutes of his time for this interview. He nodded at me and then asked his assistant to give us some time in his cabin. He took me to his cabin and told me to take a seat. I took his interview. He answered all my questions with calmness and confidence. It looked like it was nothing for him. It probably wasn't. He did much bigger things than giving his interviews to college students like me. I left his office and drove all the way back to my apartment. I had developed a crush on him that day. A month later, he came to my university for the event. Everyone was fawning over him, from the faculty to the students. I wasn't alone in his fan club. I took the first row seats to hear his speech. Somewhere in between his speech, his eyes found mine. I didn't expect him to recognize me, but he did. He looked at my way and my heart started thumping. He continued his speech with the same confidence. After his speech, there was a dinner organized by the university. Since my professor really liked my interview, I was one of the few students who were invited to attend it. I never got much time from my studies to socialize and attend parties like other students, so when I got the invite to this prestigious dinner, I didn't miss it. I went to the university's garden where the dinner was organized. I saw my professor talking to G, and when my professor saw me, he invited me to meet him as well. I went there and introduced myself. I felt shy as well. "I remember you," G said. I was half surprised and half shocked. The professor left when someone called him. G asked his assistant for his card and gave it to me. There was a personal number mentioned in it. "I'd like to know you more," he said, the confidence radiating from him. I took his card in my hand and just kept looking at him. He then gave me his phone to put my number. I did that with shaky hands. Some other important guest came to talk to him and I excused myself. Even today, when I think of that day, it feels like a scene straight from the movie. A nerd like me and a guy like him. Everyone around him had a crush on him. I was no different. There was no match between us, and yet somehow he wanted to know me. He called me the next Friday and asked me out for dinner. I should have said no, but I was just a young girl who had this enormous crush on a guy way out of her league and didn't want to make the mistake of saying no to this once-in-a-lifetime thing. I told him sure, and he asked for my address and told me to be ready. He told me that a car would be waiting for me and then ended the call. That Friday, we went on our first date. I was intimidated by his presence at first, but then he calmed me down by talking to me with extra sweetness. That wasn't the only date we had, like I thought. We went on many dates for the next month or so. Finally, one day I got the courage to ask him why he chose me when he could have anyone. He told me that he liked being around me. That was enough to make me feel special. For a girl like me, whose life revolved around studies, I never even thought about having a love life. And now I was dating the hotshot alpha CEO. Talk about fate. I was a nerd through and through my school and college life. I had never even thought that I was going to be with a guy like G. Being with him showed me what I was missing in life. He would take me to fancy dinners. His apartment looked like a fancy suite in a very expensive hotel. I liked having fun and enjoying the luxuries. I had never been in any physical relationship before G. I was inexperienced about everything. He taught me everything. Our relationship was going great even though I was afraid that something was going to go wrong. He would treat me with all the luxuries available in the world. He asked me to move in with him in his penthouse, and I agreed. I'm not going to pretend to all of you that I was in true love or something. If I'm being honest, I just enjoyed the experience that came with his lifestyle. His lifestyle was so different from mine. We came from completely different worlds. I came from a middle-class family. I got into my college through financial aid. Studying was all I ever knew. I was young, and even though I wasn't in love with G, I knew that we could have a good life together. I did everything to be the perfect girlfriend to him. Now that I had a taste of this life, I had no intention of going back to my old one. I graduated university the same year we met, and I applied for a job in the local news company. One evening when G asked me how I liked my new job, I told him that it was great, but I wish I could have started my career with the leading news channel, name withheld for legal purposes. He smiled at me and called his assistant and said something I didn't hear. We continued eating our dinner in peace. The next day, I got the call from that leading news channel. They informed me that I have gotten the position there as the senior journalist. My boyfriend is something else, I thought as I made my way to my new office in my new car, gift from my boyfriend for my new job. I was happy in my new job and in my personal life. I got everything I wanted with a snap of fingers. I had a caring boyfriend who had the power to make or destroy anything within seconds. After a year of us dating when G proposed to me to marry him, I was over the moon. We had a beautiful ceremony. It made celebrity weddings look like child's play. You must be thinking that I have the perfect life, why am I here? But wait till you hear the next part. My life has come to a crossroad where every path leads to an end. I don't know how to get out of this mess. The mess I made. Like I said earlier, I got the position as the senior journalist in the leading news channel. My initial days were great there. But as time passed, my responsibilities increased. My work required that I had to contact my boss a lot more than before. My boss, M, 28, was a good-looking man. All my female colleagues had a crush on him. Working in close proximity with him made him even more attractive to me. He was closer to age and me than G. While G had this energy where he dominated everyone with his presence alone, my boss had a more boyish vibe going on. Sometimes, I would find him staring at me and then suddenly look away when I caught him staring. This was the second time I was getting any kind of male attention in my life. I wasn't going to do anything about it, but I thought that it'll be fun to enjoy the attention while it lasts. I used to sneak glances at him when I thought he wasn't looking. We would talk casually about other things than work, and it felt easier to talk to him than it had been with G, maybe because we were around the same age, we understood each other clearly. One day, I had a fight with G before he left for London. He wanted me to accompany him to that event, but I didn't want to go. I had some important work deadlines to work on. He told me that he'll talk to my boss and I didn't have to worry about it. I didn't like the way he treated my work so lightly. We got into a fight about it. After that, he left for the airport while I made my way to the office. I was upset the whole day because of my fight with G. I couldn't focus on anything, let alone my work. G didn't respect me or my work. He thought that everything would go according to his wishes. I was really upset. As evening rolled around, I decided to work a bit late as I didn't want to go home. Everything would have reminded me about him, upsetting me even more. I didn't realize when time passed and suddenly it was past 9. The entire floor was almost empty. I made my way to the pantry to grab a cup of coffee. I ran into my boss who was getting himself a coffee too. He asked me if something was wrong. I was moved by his observance. This guy didn't even know me personally but could still figure out something is wrong while my husband didn't understand me even when I was shouting my thoughts at him. I would have usually avoided sharing my personal life, but the tenderness in his voice made me want to open up to him. Mistake number 1. I told him about my fight with G. He was patient and understanding and listened to my rant. I didn't realize how close we had gotten. I was already in a vulnerable state due to my fight, so when he touched my hair and came closer to kiss me, I didn't stop him. Mistake number 2. One thing led to another and suddenly we were in his car going to his place. All the anger and frustration I felt because of my fight with G was gone. I wanted to forget everything about G that night while I slept with my boss in his bed. It wasn't just that night. It was too difficult to resist the temptation. G had gone for a whole week, and the entire week, every day after work, I left with my boss in his car for his home. I told him that this will only continue till G comes back. Everything would go back to normal then. Everything didn't go back to normal. When I returned home one morning from my boss's home to get ready for work, G was already home. He wasn't supposed to come back home for the next 2 days, so I was shocked when I saw him drinking his scotch while sitting on our couch while his eyes were trained on me. I pretended everything was normal and went to kiss him. "How was your trip?" I asked him. "Productive," he told me. His expression didn't give away anything. It never did. It was impossible to know what was going on in his mind. "Where were you last night?" he asked me in a neutral voice. "Oh, just out with a friend from college," I replied and hoped that vague reply was sufficient from him. "Friend, huh?" he asked like he was waiting for me to say more. I tried to ignore him as I got ready and told him that I was going to the office. He nodded but told me to be at home before 5 p.m. as he had a surprise plan for me. This eased the tension inside my chest. He wouldn't plan surprises for me if he suspected something wrong was going on. I told him that I would be here and made my way to the office. I thought I should inform my boss that G was back and we cannot continue the affair anymore. I went to his office to inform him only to find the cabin was empty. I was already half an hour late and he wasn't still here. It wasn't usual for him to be late to the office. When I left his house in the morning, he told me he'd see me in the office. Why wasn't he here? I thought to myself as I made my way back to my office. I tried to call him up, but his phone was switched off. I left him messages to call me back, but didn't get any reply on that either. I was worried for a while, but then thought maybe he got caught in some personal emergency or something. His family didn't live in the city, so maybe it was something related to them. I did my work, and when the clock rolled around 4, I started packing up my stuff to get home. I didn't want to get G upset. I was already walking on a thin rope around him. I reached home before 5 like I was told. G was waiting for me in our living room when I entered the penthouse. He was drinking something, whiskey, I guessed. He looked at me and then smiled. It wasn't the type of smile I was used to getting from him. This smile he gave when he was going for an acquisition. Like he knew, he was going to make the other person leave the meeting with nothing left. I made my way to him and he told me to take a seat on the couch with him. I asked him what the surprise was and he gave me a smile again, which made me nervous for a reason I couldn't pinpoint then. He told me to have patience. He asked me how my week was. I told him it was fine and asked him about his work trip. "It was fine but would have been better with you," he said smiling. Guilt hit me hard for going behind his back and lying to him. I tried to give him a smile. "How was your work?" he asked me. "It was fine," I managed to answer back. "Talking about work, let's watch some news," he said looking at his watch. "Sure," I said back as he took the remote control and put a news channel on our 70-inch television. Shock of the century came through me as on the TV screen was my boss and the guy I had been sleeping with for the last week. He wasn't anchoring or anything. The camera captured him as he was being taken to the police station. All the cameras were placed on him while the officers guided him and he followed with his hands in handcuffs. "What is happening?" I managed to ask and looked at my husband. He was looking at me like was gauging my expression, and the look on his face told me that he didn't like whatever he saw on my face. "He's my boss, why is he being arrested?" I asked again with a straight face, trying to hide my distress. Just as I asked him, the news channel showed that a large amount of drugs were found in his apartment. I knew he did drugs occasionally. I told him to stop as well this week. But I was sure he wasn't involved in drug trafficking like the news channel said. He was going to get in prison for at least 10 years, the news channel informed. "You worried about him?" my husband asked me, taking my chin in his hands. "He was my colleague," I replied, trying to talk in a neutral voice. "That's all?" he asked back. "Yeah," I said in a calm voice. He smiled like he had just caught a fish in his trap. He took the remote control again and suddenly the TV screen was showing pictures of me kissing my boss in the pantry, us leaving in his car. Pictures of us being intimate in the parking lot. All of these were from last week. You know I hate liars, right? My heartbeat increased. I had never been so scared. Suddenly it occurred to me that it cannot be a coincidence that my boss got arrested the same day G found out about us. "You are behind his arrest?" I asked him in a scared whisper. He laughed then. He touched what was mine. "He had to pay some way or other," he replied calmly. I knew it was stupid to ask him questions, but I couldn't hold myself back. I asked him how he knew. He smirked at me and changed the screen to show my pictures of all the years we were together. "I always kept an eye on you." The photos were taken everywhere. From shopping malls, restaurants to even my office. Another question slipped my lips. "How did you get him arrested?" "There's nothing money and power can't make happen." I knew then that he wouldn't let me go easily. "Are you going to divorce me?" I asked with tears in my eyes. He made an expression like he hadn't thought about it. "I should divorce you, but where's the fun in just that? You are going to pay for your lies as well." I started crying loudly then. He paid no attention to me and gave me an envelope. Inside the envelope were our divorce papers. It made me confused. I looked at him. I said, "There's no fun in just that, doesn't mean I'm going to stay married to a lying witch like you." He motioned me to sign it as he spoke. I signed the papers. Now about the fun part, I realized I have treated you with luxuries you didn't deserve. So now you are going to do what you deserve. I kept looking at him as he announced what he had in mind for me. "You're going to serve as a maid for me. Come to think of it, you deserved that only. It was my mistake to treat you as a queen. Now I will correct my mistake." "You can't do that." "I'll go to the police," I said with horror. He showed me another paper which had my signature. It was a contract between me and G. It stated that if I cheated on G, he had the authority to make me work for him under any capacity he desired. I remember that document. I signed it when I was signing my prenup before marriage, but didn't read it. I was so screwed. He called the security guards who took me to the servant quarters. I spent the whole night crying. I couldn't escape this. What had I done? I started working in the penthouse some days later. I had to do all the household work. It's been a month since that horrible day. G had not been around the penthouse much, but he still had staff over to monitor my work. All my belongings had been taken away from me. I'm just left with my phone and a few of my clothes. I cannot share my situation with anyone. My life is worse than hell now. If anyone knows anything that could help me, please feel free to share. I've shared my story here because it felt too suffocating and I wanted to let it out. I don't want to make things worse for me and therefore have not shared any information like name or work about anyone. I hope you all understand. I caught my wife in the act cheating with our gardener, so I destroyed her life doing this. Hey, Reddit. I never thought it would happen to me. I had always believed that my wife and I had a solid, loving relationship that would endure through anything life threw our way. But one day, when I discovered my wife was having an extramarital affair with my gardener, everything changed. The shock and betrayal I felt in that moment were overwhelming. It shattered the foundation of trust we had built over years, leaving me questioning everything I thought I knew about our marriage. I am a 40-year-old male with a stunning wife of 35. We have been married for almost 2 years now. I wanted us to move to a bigger house with a swimming pool, a nice garden, and a barbecue area. My wife has always been fascinated by the idea of a villa. So, on my wife's birthday, I gifted her keys to our new house. I had everything prepared and ready to move in, including all the furniture and decorations that she had always dreamed of. It was a moment filled with excitement and joy as we envisioned the countless memories we would create in our new home. We couldn't wait to invite friends and family over for pool parties and barbecues, enjoying the beautiful garden and creating a haven where we could relax and unwind together. As time progressed, it was getting difficult for us to upkeep the house. We didn't have a lot of spare time to do household chores. So, we hired a gardener to take care of our yard and keep our property looking beautiful. The gardener, named Carlos, quickly became a valuable asset to our family. He had an incredible green thumb and transformed our yard into a vibrant oasis. Carlos not only maintained the lawn and trimmed the hedges, but he also introduced us to various plants and flowers that added a burst of color to our surroundings. We also hired a weekly cleaner who would come in once a week and deep clean the entire house. This helped us maintain the house and also have friends and family over without being judged for not having a sparkling house. Carlos was a young and dynamic person. He was 28 years old, well-built, and had a charismatic personality that attracted people towards him. Carlos possessed a natural charm and had an infectious energy that made him the life of any gathering. He exuded confidence in every step, leaving a lasting impression on everyone he met. At first, my wife and I were both pleased with the work he did. He was polite, friendly, and always seemed happy to do whatever we needed. But then I began to notice small changes in my wife's behavior. She started spending more time outside when he was there, and would often bring him a glass of lemonade or a snack. I couldn't help but feel a growing sense of unease as their interactions became more frequent and intimate. It seemed like there was a subtle shift in their dynamic that I couldn't quite put my finger on. I didn't think anything of it at first. I trusted my wife completely, and thought that maybe she was just being friendly. A few months after we bought the house, my wife started seemingly less and less interested in having guests over. I would notice her spacing out during our conversations with our guests, which were very unlike her. I asked her if there was something bothering her, but she brushed it off, saying that she was just feeling a little under the weather. However, her behavior continued to concern me as it persisted over time. I decided to give her some space. I hoped that giving her some space would allow her to open up about whatever was truly bothering her. However, as time went on, her disinterest in socializing became more pronounced, and I couldn't help but feel a growing sense of unease about the situation. I knew it was important to address this issue before it started affecting our relationship and our ability to enjoy our new home together. My work was booming, and I was getting calls from all places to expand my business. I was very content with the way things were going for me. My wife insisted that I should expand my business so that we can fall back on it during bad times. I gave it a thought and decided to take her advice seriously. I realized that expanding my business would not only provide us with a safety net but also open up new opportunities for growth and success. With this newfound motivation, I began strategizing and exploring different avenues to expand my business effectively. I researched market trends and analyzed potential target markets to identify areas of high demand. Additionally, I sought advice from industry experts and attended business conferences to gain insights on successful expansion strategies. By adopting a proactive approach and implementing innovative marketing techniques, I aim to attract a larger customer base and establish a strong presence in new markets. After careful deliberation, I had finally picked out a new city to expand my business. I had to go on a 2-week business trip and was very skeptical about leaving my wife behind in the big villa all by herself. I suggested that she ask one of her friends or sisters to come over and give her company. However, my wife reassured me that she would be perfectly fine and even excited to have some alone time. She assured me that she would take necessary precautions to ensure her safety and enjoy the peacefulness of the villa. Reluctantly, I agreed to trust her judgment and left detailed instructions for her to follow in case of any emergencies. As I embarked on my business trip, a mixture of worry and anticipation filled my mind, hoping that everything would go smoothly for both of us during our time apart. I was unaware of what was brewing between my wife and Carlos, the gardener behind my back. I was done with my business set up earlier than the intended time. I had a few more days from my scheduled departure. I decided to spend one day shopping for a few things for my dear wife. I wanted to make sure I found the perfect gifts for her, so I researched the best shopping areas in the city. With my list in hand, I embarked on a day-long shopping spree, excited to surprise my wife with thoughtful presents upon my return home. As I wandered through the bustling streets, I couldn't help but feel a sense of anticipation and joy. The vibrant displays and charming boutiques offered a plethora of options, making it difficult to narrow down my choices. Nonetheless, I carefully selected items that I knew would bring a smile to my wife's face, each one representing a cherished memory or shared interest between us. With the gifts carefully wrapped and tucked away in my bag, I couldn't wait to see the look of delight on her face when she saw me early and also the things I had carefully selected for her. I did not tell my wife that I would be home earlier than expected. I wanted to surprise her with a candlelight dinner. So, I sneaked into the house trying to make as little noise as possible. As I tiptoed through the hallway, I couldn't help but feel a rush of excitement, imagining the look of delight on my wife's face when she discovered my surprise. The soft glow of the candles illuminated the dining room, creating a warm and intimate ambience that I knew would make the evening unforgettable. I carefully set the table with her favorite dishes and poured a glass of her preferred wine, ensuring everything was perfect for our special evening together. As I waited for her arrival, my heart raced with anticipation, eager to see the joy and happiness that would fill her eyes when she walked through the door. As I was returning satisfied from the arrangements, I could hear faint laughter coming from the jacuzzi upstairs. That was weird as it was just my wife at home. Who could she be laughing with? Was she on her phone? Why would she take her phone to the jacuzzi? She rarely did that. She liked her peace and quiet when she was relaxing. She liked reading books while in the jacuzzi. I was curious and wanted to inspect it. I decided to quietly make my way upstairs, trying not to alert my wife of my presence. As I reached the top of the stairs, the sound of laughter grew louder, making me even more intrigued. I peeked into the bathroom and was surprised to see my wife, fully immersed in the jacuzzi, and there just beside her I saw our gardener in a compromising position. My heart sank as I realized the truth that had been hidden from me. The shock and betrayal I felt in that moment were overwhelming, shattering the trust one had once held so dearly. I was in shock. My wife and I had never had any major problems in our marriage, and I had never suspected her of being unfaithful. But there she was, kissing and touching our gardener in a way that left no doubt as to what was going on. My mind raced as I tried to make sense of the situation. Questions flooded my thoughts. How long had this been happening? Was there something lacking in our relationship that led her to seek affection elsewhere? That is when it dawned on me that I never saw the gardener anywhere around when I entered the villa, which I found quite weird. Now I know why he always seemed to conveniently disappear whenever I arrived. The pieces of the puzzle were finally falling into place, and it became clear that their affair had been going on right under my nose. The betrayal stung deeply, and I couldn't help but wonder if there were any other secrets they had been keeping from me. I slammed open the door and rushed inside. My eyes were burning with rage. My heart pounded in my chest as I confronted them. My voice trembled with intensity as I demanded an explanation for their actions. Initially taken aback, my spouse began to cry and attempted to apologize, claiming that it had been an error. He was just trying to help her because she screamed after tripping herself. I could see how seamlessly she was lying her way out. I had been downstairs the whole time and there were no screams. The gardener seemed almost indifferent, as if he didn't really care about the damage he had done to our family. His nonchalant attitude only fueled my anger further. I demanded an explanation from the gardener, wanting to understand how he could be so callous. It was clear that his lack of remorse only deepened the rift between us, leaving me questioning whether forgiveness was even possible. The gardener was so emotionless about the entire encounter. He said that my wife was the one who invited him to the jacuzzi asking for a back massage. I couldn't believe his response. He seemed completely unfazed by the accusation, insisting that he was simply following my wife's request. I knew my wife would never do such a thing. His nonchalant demeanor only fueled my anger further. I confronted my wife about the gardener's claims, but she vehemently denied ever inviting him to the jacuzzi or requesting a back massage. The gardener's nonchalant demeanor and my wife's denial left me feeling torn between believing them and questioning the trust in my marriage. I demanded him to leave immediately, determined to get to the bottom of this unsettling situation. In the days and weeks that followed, my life was turned upside down. I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep, and I couldn't think straight. I felt like everything I had built with my wife had been a lie, and that I had been a fool for not seeing it sooner. Every moment felt like a painful reminder of the betrayal, and I struggled to find solace in anything. The once vibrant colors of life now seemed dull and meaningless, leaving me questioning my own judgment and wondering how I could move forward from this devastating revelation. As days passed, all I could think of was what I could do to make myself feel better. I decided that I would not divorce my wife. I hired a new and hot gardener by the name Ashley. I made a special contract with her and made her wear skimpy clothes. I openly flirted with her in front of my wife. I wanted her to know how it feels when someone you love and trust breaks it. I wanted to create a sense of empathy within my wife, hoping that experiencing the pain of betrayal would make her understand the impact of her actions. I had specifically hired this new gardener just to flirt with me to make my wife watch it. My wife was not allowed to go out of the house, no phone calls, and had to seek my permission if she wanted to talk to someone. I created a prison for her in the villa itself. She was allowed to talk only to me. I forced her to watch me and hot gardener flirt our hearts out. I did exactly as she explained how things transpired between her and Carlos. Every day after breakfast, my wife was to narrate how things slowly developed between her and Carlos. Later in the evening, Ashley and I would recreate the scenes she described, acting out the conversations and interactions between her and Carlos. It became our own little performance. As days passed, my wife begged me to leave her alone. I reminded her that she had made a conscious decision to cheat on me, and I had no control over what she did. The same way, she had no control over what I do. I started inviting Ashley to our bedroom at night. My wife was to watch us sleep together. I made my wife choose the clothes that Ashley would be wearing every night to bed. She was supposed to sit on the couch and watch me and Ashley enjoy the night till both of us fell asleep. This arrangement created a strange dynamic in our relationship, as my wife struggled with her emotions while witnessing our intimate moments. However, I believed it was necessary for her to fully understand the consequences of her actions and the impact they had on our marriage. A few months later, I came to accept that our marriage was over and that it was time to move on. I focused on healing myself and rebuilding my life, finding solace in the fact that I deserved better than being betrayed. It wasn't easy, and there were plenty of hard days along the way. But I eventually found the strength to pick up the pieces and start over. I got a divorce, as it was no fun going on and on with this punishment. I asked my wife to leave the house, and she has no right to carry anything with her when she leaves. Looking back on it now, I realize that I am not alone. There are countless stories out there of people who have been cheated on by their partners. It's a painful, heartbreaking experience that can leave deep scars. But it's also something that you can survive. Finding solace in the experiences of others who have gone through similar situations can provide a sense of comfort and reassurance. So here I turn to my Redditors to share my story. I may have been brutal in the punishment, but it was only because of the deep love I once had for my wife. I hope that by sharing my story, I can find some guidance and support from fellow Redditors who may have experienced similar challenges in their relationships. It is important for me to emphasize that my intention behind the punishment was rooted in the love and concern I once felt for my wife's well-being. Comments *1 u/Reddit user 1 *. It's important to remember that healing takes time and everyone's journey is unique. Seeking support from friends, family, or even professional help can provide the necessary guidance and strength to rebuild trust and move forward in life. Remember, you are not defined by the actions of others, and with self-care and resilience, you can emerge stronger from this challenging experience. Sharing your story and seeking support from loved ones or joining support groups can help in the healing process, reminding you that there is hope for a brighter future beyond the pain of betrayal. 2. U/Reddit user 2 *. OP, if you're reading this and have been through something similar, know that you are not alone. It's okay to feel angry, hurt, or betrayed. But it's also important to remember that this is not the end of your life. You can and will get through this, and there is a bright future waiting for you on the other side. Take the time to heal and prioritize self-care. 3. U/Reddit user 3 *. I bet she deserved every bit of punishment for this betrayal. A man gives you everything that you ever dreamed of, and this is how you repay him with. It's truly disheartening to witness such a blatant disregard for loyalty and gratitude. It's difficult to fathom how someone could be so callous towards someone who has given them everything they've ever wanted. Hey, there guys. I've been keeping this down for a long time now. It has been almost 10 years since this happened, and I think it's now time I start to tell my story. This might get pretty long because all the events that I'm about to narrate have long occurred, so that means that unlike most of the stories I normally read on this Reddit, there won't be updates. My ex-wife betrayed me and I lost my marbles. Some time ago, I was married to a lady named Caroline. She was a career-driven lady and one of those strong independent women who only cared about her career. She wasn't always like that. I don't know, something about the job she got after we got married made her like that. We got married young, she was 24 and I was 27. We decided to hold off on having kids because we wanted to spend a few years enjoying each other's company. I had suggested it and she agreed because she thought we weren't yet mature enough to handle raising kids. We decided to wait until we were married 5 years. She got that job 2 years into our marriage. I remember her first day at work. She came back so happy and full of immense admiration for her coworkers. She couldn't stop telling me everything she had learned from the first day at the office. What did she tell? Well, let's start from the fact that it was a female-dominated workspace, which I didn't really care much about until she said they wanted to make it a female-only thing, but they needed the men to run the things they couldn't. Things that were heavy-duty. I thought that was weird, seeing her joke about how her coworkers spent most of their lunch break shitting men. I get women empowerment and all, but that seemed to me like taking it too far. Due to that, I started to get a feeling that I wouldn't like her stay at the company. I also knew that it would be almost impossible to persuade her to quit working there if my fears ever became reality. Though I had my take-backs, I was really happy for her. She finally got to work a job she wanted and had dreamt of. I hated the way she was miserable during the year she worked as a teacher, and I was happy she had gotten something that made her happy to wake up each passing day. The weeks passed, with her getting more enthusiastic about her work life with each passing day. I won't lie, I started to get a little jealous. Not a lot of people were still giggy about working for more than 2 months. There's always the initial, "I love working here" stage, but I didn't always last that long. Mine sure didn't. Her joy about work was nice, meant we got to get freaky in the other room often, which was wild. She never had any complaints about her work, except for a few customers being customers, which was something I was happy was going right for her. Now the other thing I didn't like about where she worked started to rear its head. Most of the workers were career-driven feminists who were all single past the age of 35. I felt that at the age of 23, she was way too young and could potentially be malleable or brainwashed into thinking that she made a mistake marrying early. Also, I hoped that she didn't start to model their single lifestyle, because she looked up to a lot of them. Now the funny thing is, the conversations she had with them, at least the ones I knew of, mostly centered around their careers. They also had conversations about other things though, but they mostly spoke about how they wanted to grow their business to the highest of heights. She told me a lot of things about them, how her boss, a 49-year-old woman as of then, always told her her next step was this, or that other one, which were all always something about making more money and becoming the most popular or influential person that bore her name. I don't remember the name, but my ex-wife always said the name with so much respect then. Well, slowly they started to tell her things and she started to listen. She started to want to be like these women, she wanted to become an influential person herself. I tried to talk to her, to tell her that I loved her ambition, but those women weren't women she should aspire to be like. I tried to talk to her, show her more influential women, who were able to make names for themselves while still being in a committed relationship. Funny enough, they always talked her up for being the youngest, but still the only one who was married. There were days when she would come back more excited than normal, because a coworker, one of whom she looked up to, had told her she'd happily swap lives with her. So it seemed they all wanted to get married someday, but one thing that most of the women didn't want was, you guessed, kids. She had started dropping subtle hints that she didn't want kids now. I knew it was because of her work environment. The only people who had kids were the people who did the maintenance, IT and other stuff. The women who worked with the main team, which she was a part of, didn't. At this point, we were drawing closer to the time we gave before we started to try for kids. I paid no mind to whatever hints and signs she dropped and decided that she'd either tell me herself or we move on as planned. After our 5th anniversary, we talked about her going off birth control. She disagreed. I laughed, to be honest, but I didn't find anything funny about her disagreement. She told me a lot of things that her group of undesirables had said to her about having kids, how the only thing the man had to worry about was the initial, which the men liked. Every other thing was on the women. She talked on and on about how she felt bringing a child into the world was only going to slow her pace. At this point, she had already started climbing up the corporate ladder. It was disheartening to see the woman I loved, who was always a mom, who always loved nurturing, who wanted to have kids before we even got married, turn into something like this, something I couldn't explain in just 3 years of working at that place. The bunch of undesirables, as I started calling her coworkers, had indoctrinated her with their undesirable ideas. They had turned my woman into your average deluded feminist. What was worse? She cited the fact that she was the one who earned the bulk of the money we spent and the money we had in our joint account. Low blow that was, if you ask me. We talked about this for several months. She had started telling me the things her mates at the office were telling her, that I was unknowingly becoming a part of the problem, that I couldn't see past my patriarchal instincts, which were meant to oppress women. There's no way she thought me wanting kids was oppression, was what I thought. Unknown to me, this woman was already far gone. This conversation went on for a longer period of time than I expected. It took her a few months, but on my birthday, November the 27th, 12 years ago, she brought her birthday gift to me. She had gone off birth control. I was happy, really happy. It was now time for me to make little McLean babies. Unknown to me, that was where the evil deeds started. We tried for 2 years for a baby. At this point, if I was given just one child, I'd have bitten the hand off of whoever offered it. We went to different family clinics, met with different fertility experts, and did tests on each other. Deep down, I thought I was being punished for being an absolute player in 7 years from 17 till 24 when I first met Caroline. I had gone to see a urologist, just to be sure I was even able to get a woman pregnant. She went to see the people she would see to get a fertility test done, or at least that was what she told me. When we got results, we were both really fertile, and the specialists only said we should try more so that it would surely happen. Hey, more sex. I'll take what I can get. Over the next 2 years, we still got no results. Then unfortunately, and also fortunately for me, she got involved in an accident, a fatal accident that claimed the lives of several of her coworkers as they went on a convention in another state. I was chilling at home that day. 'Twas a Saturday evening, so I was back home from working. She wasn't home, so everywhere was extremely quiet. I was sitting in the living room doing nothing at all, just sitting. You men know how soul-pleasing a quiet house is. I got a call from a hospital in the state where she was. She was involved in an accident and was one of the few who they got to on time and were saved. I was told she was put on life support but needed to be operated on before the next 3 days, or she might not make it. I rushed down to the hospital with every possible thing that I thought would be needed. It took me till 10 a.m. the next day to get there, but I didn't stop driving until I got to the hospital, driving for more than 12 hours straight. Immediately I got there, I rushed to the where I met my ex-wife. Seeing her in that state, it was pretty hard to contain myself. The thoughts of losing her taunted me. I was scared. I handed whatever documents the hospital needed and they started the surgery. 2 days later she was stable, she could talk and all. I stayed by her side at the hospital all through the days. We were talking and laughing when the doctor came in to check on her, as he did at least once a day. As he made to leave, I asked when she'd be discharged. He responded saying, "Very soon, I just need to prescribe some medication and checkups at the hospital where you live, but before that I'd need to know if there anything that could affect the medication I'd be prescribing. We don't want to accidentally cripple or even worse, do in a patient we just spent 12 hours in the operating room with." "Anything like what?" Caroline asked. "You know, things like ulcer, pregnancy, diabetes, and aborted pregnancies. Anything that may have not been in the medical history." "No," I responded. "There are no health obstructions." The doctor said okay and headed out of the room. He didn't make it out the door when my ex-wife called him back. "Wait," she said. "There is something." The doctor turned and walked back towards us, asking to hear what it was. She looked at me. I could see in her face that she was afraid to say whatever it was she wanted to say. She hesitated a little, then I nudged her to say what it was. "I had an abortion last week." "Hold on a minute, what?" I didn't even know when I had shouted this out. "Please don't stream the patient, you don't want to risk us having a setback." I controlled myself. The doctor took notes and left. It was now my turn to ask the questions. "What do you mean you had an abortion?" "You had an abortion when we were desperately trying to have kids for 2 years? What made you make such a decision without talking to me first?" She started crying, saying she never wanted me to find out this way. That wasn't what I asked her. I told her to answer only the questions I asked, nothing more. She started to talk about the years she spent at the company. She talked about the fact that the women she walked with were all against having children, how they didn't want anyone to be dependent on them. She told me how they called children leeches, parasites. She told me how she had told them about our fights, and how one of them suggested she agree with me but get abortions behind my back. What he doesn't know won't hurt him. She said the lady told her that she might only have to do it once and that I might give up after trying for 6 months to a year. I was really disappointed at her. Are these really the people she looked up to? How many? I asked her. She shook her head, saying she didn't want to answer, that I'd leave her if she said how many. I looked at this lady, at this murderer. I asked again, how many? She shook her head, saying, no, 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 no. How many? 7. She said, finally caving. Wow, 7. 7 abortions. All the while she watched me blame myself for us not being able to have kids, and all the while we could have had maybe 2 kids running around the crib. Wow. I walked out of the hospital. As I headed home, I thought about the whole thing. It took me 17 hours to get back home, as I used that time to think about the whole thing. I imagined having 7 children running around my house. I closed all my windows and screamed for a long time, hoping I'd scream away the pain. After successfully giving myself a headache, I calmed down. I decided I needed to get back at her. The only reasonable thing that came to mind was to ruin the career she willingly killed my kids to have. I remembered her telling me once about how the company was evading tax the whole time they existed. She had briefed me on how they did it, and because she was now CFM, Chief Financial Manager, she was actively involved in it all. I knew what I had to do. When I got home, I went straight for her keys and headed to her office. Since the majority of the undesirables were a part of the accident and those who weren't were at the convention, I took my chance. I went for all the files I could find that could serve as tangible proof of their tax evasion, like records of monthly profits, budgets, anything I came across that seemed like evidence, I took. I scanned copies and saved them on my device. Then I called my lawyer, told him how things were. I evenly shared the money in the joint account and I left the house to her. I didn't even know what to do there anymore. Everything in there reminded me of her. By the end of the week, it was all ready. The IRS had been alerted and proof presented to them. The divorce papers were ready. I went out to meet my realtor, to find a better place to move into. The time I had spent there was already too much. By the time I had gotten home, Caroline was back from the hospital. She got up and rushed to me when she saw me. I put my hand out at a stop sign. I don't want to hear whatever it is you have to say. The papers on the table are divorce papers. You've been served. Henceforth, we will only be conversing via our lawyers. I said to her. She tried to beg me, tried to explain herself, but I wasn't having it. I went straight to the room, reached for my bag of clean clothes, and headed right out. I only stopped at the door to say these last words to her. Listen, love, you should be ashamed of yourself. You broke my trust and went against nature, all because of your stupid career. Well, I hate to break it to you, but I've alerted the IRS, so I hope your company has made a ton of profit, because you better call Saul. I hope you regret the decision you made, and I hope that whenever you look in the mirror you see yourself for who you really are. A murderer. I left again. This time for good. I slept at my office for a week before I was able to find a new place that was within my price range and mortgage plan. In 2 months our divorce was final. Just a day after we were officially divorced, I heard on the local news radio about an all-female company being busted for tax evasion. Yes. Giving karma time to do its job. Do it yourself. I didn't really follow the court proceedings. Hell, I was there only twice, the day I was called on as a witness and the day of the sentencing. The case took 2 years. I dressed in a 2-piece suit, like the meme, dressed for my enemy's downfall. I wanted her to know that I did this to her, and I was there to watch her hopes and dreams burn before her eyes. They took everything from here, even down to the house I left her. The company was shut down completely as they couldn't afford to recount all those years of unpaid taxes, and she, as the manager of finance, and her boss, the COO, were both sentenced to 5 to 10 years in prison. As she was escorted out of the court, our eyes met and I had my best evil smile on as I then flipped her off. She bowed her head and I saw a drop of tear fall from her eyes. Look who had the last laugh. Me. I got a call later on, 4 years ago, from an unknown number. It was her. She said she had got out close to 4 months ago and that she wanted to make amends. We met at a KFC on a Saturday evening and talked about everything. She talked about how, when she first started working with the company, she had never seen so many made women in one gathering, how she always thought before then that her biggest achievement was being Mrs. McLean, and how she wanted to be more than just a wife. She said she started seeing a common denominator amongst the women, which was that they were all never married, nor did they have kids. She said she thought in order to make it she had to be like them, and that since she was already married the only other thing was to not have children. She saw how they openly condemned having kids, and how they said their lives were much better because they didn't have any parasites latching onto them. She said she hated herself for being so naive and impressionable. She didn't have to say it, it was evident in her appearance, posture, and her body. I had noticed some scars and her hands, although she tried to hide them by wearing long sleeves. She said when she got out, she went over to a friend from the office, that what she was when she got there made her hate herself even more. She said the lady was now married with 2 kids aged 4 and 1, and she also had another on the way. She told me that when they had started talking, she had told her how she only remained working there because the pay was good and the benefits even better. The friend of hers told Caroline that she was already engaged to be married and had planned to resign as soon as she got married, until the company was shut down, that is. Caroline went on to talk about what she said was the most painful part of it all. When she asked about the lady who gave her the abortion advice, the lady told her that after the company got shut down by the government she left the country. She said that they had still kept in touch until the lady told her that she was pregnant, aged 41. Caroline told me that her friend from work got angry at the lady who had given the abortion advice, stating that she had given someone advice that helped ruin her marriage only for her to decide she was going to have children, the same children she strongly advised against. She showed me a recording of the words of the lady who gave her the advice. I played it and it went like so, not word for word because it's been a long time, but this was basically what the lady in the recording said. I was really envious of Carl. She was the youngest and still somehow was the one who had life figured out the most. It was a good thing she was such a naive lady. Most of us were miserable. Yes, we were rich, but what good is having all the money in this world if you had no one to share it with? I gave her that advice in hopes that her husband would find out. Not only was she married, but she was married to a literal knight in shining armor. I laughed. To be honest, these were the women she wanted to be like, sad, pathetic, and miserable women. These were the women she betrayed me. I looked at her. She was now like those women, although now she wasn't as rich as they were, she didn't even have anything. I laughed because of how sad it was. She asked about me, how my life was, if I had remarried. I told her that I wasn't. Her eyes lit up for the first time that day. She probably thought we still had a chance. I shut that hope down quickly. Told her I was finally happy, that I had finally moved on. I told her I wished her the best in all her endeavors. I really did. I thought she had suffered enough already. She tried to plead with me to remain in contact, to be friends, so we can see where that led. She told me she still loved me. She said she couldn't stop thinking about what I told her that day I left the house. She had started crying at this point. To be fair, she cried a lot during the conversation. I told her to forget about us rekindling what we had, that was never going to happen, that I don't see the woman I loved anymore, and that I had moved on in the time she had spent in jail. I told her I could help her back on her feet. Moving on was hard. Sometimes when I sleep, I dream about those 7 kids, a dream where they had names, a life, and a future. I have 1 child now, adopted. I'm serious about never getting married again. He's a real gem. God gave me the opportunity to choose a child this time, and I chose right. His 10th birthday was just yesterday, and he was the reason why I decided to tell the world my story. Thank you guys for reading this. I love the life I've built for myself since I left her. I'm happy now. My son makes me happy. I cheated on my husband before his family gathering. I regret this so much. Although it is wrong, giving in to desire feels so good. I am the only one to blame for the position I am in right now. Have any of you found yourself in a situation like this? How did you come out of it? I know I have messed up and there's no way I can undo it. I, 40, and have been married to 46 for 12 years. My husband, Dan, works for a marketing agency. I'm a housewife. We have 2 boys who are 10 and 8 years old. I met my husband 15 years ago. I was a waitress at a restaurant/bar that was really trending those days, where he used to visit regularly with his friends. I always found him good looking. He always made a point to sit in my booths. One time, the other waitress tried to serve him, but he refused and requested for me. I waited for him to make a move, but nothing. One day I thought I'm gonna ask him out myself. He beat me to it though. He was my last customer that evening. After my shift was over, I came out to find him waiting for me. He asked me for my number, and a few days later when he texted me asking me out on a date, it was an instant yes. We dated for 3 years before we decided we should get married. Our marriage was everything one could dream of. I worked for a little while after our marriage, but when I conceived my eldest son, I stopped going to work. I've been a housewife since then. My family life was going extremely well. My friends always used to tell me that they are jealous of me. My husband loved me. We had 2 wonderful children. It was really a dream life till I had to go and up everything. My husband at work requires him to travel a lot of time. It wasn't much of a deal since I always had the boys and was never left alone, even when I wanted to. My boys went to boarding school this summer. I didn't want them to go so young, but it was a tradition in my in-laws' family. My husband had gone too. I started feeling lonely after my boys went to boarding school this summer. My husband was out for work mostly as well. All my friends were also busy in their life. It also started to feel really boring. I thought of joining some classes. It was the best way to pass time. I browsed some classes near me and finally decided that I should join art classes. I always had an interest in art in my school days, but never got the time to continue it. I had all the time in the world now. I went to the website of this art class near me. An artist who was in his 30s was conducting these. I quickly filled all the formalities and enrolled myself quickly. In the evening when Dan and I were having dinner, I told him that I was joining an art class. He was excited for me. "You should explore your hobbies, Han," he said happily. I truly had won the lottery for the best husband. He was always so supportive. The day for my first class finally came and I went there. I was quite nervous. At the age of 40, starting something new felt quite intimidating, but Dan was right. I needed to explore this for me, I thought as I looked in the mirror. I wore a white sundress. I didn't want to look too uptight or anything. I finally reached the location. It was a studio. It wasn't either too big nor too small. It was a good place. I was the first one to reach there, so I admired the interior and everything. It had a full-length mirror on one of the walls. Whoever designed the interior of this place had a good choice. Found something you like? A voice broke my attention. I turned to look and found a young man standing near the door. He smiled at me and I gave him a small smile back. I'm John, your teacher, he introduced himself. This young man was going to teach me art. Maybe this wasn't such a good idea after all. I introduced myself to him as well. John smiled at me and told me to take a seat. John started asking me what I liked more, drawing or painting. I told him that I liked both. It's all right with you, I'll start by explaining the basics to you. I was confused as I was the only person there. Aren't we going to wait for other people? I asked him. He told me that I was the only one in this class. I only take one-on-one classes, he said smoothly. I must have missed that on the website. John started explaining to me the basics. He told me what all objects will cover, etc., etc. There was something about John. I couldn't pinpoint it, but he gave me a different energy. He would give me complete attention since I was the only person in the studio, but it was also the way he looked at me. Like I was special or something. It felt weird to get this type of attention from a stranger, but let's be honest here, I also enjoyed it a bit. Whenever I was drawing something or painting something, John would come and sit closer to me. He got really close to me a few times. He would hold my hands and show me where I was going wrong. It didn't feel like a normal teaching equation, but I couldn't tell him to maintain some distance. I didn't want to. I always looked forward to going to the studio. Even though I had scheduled classes twice a week, John had told me that I was always welcomed here to hang out or to draw something. Whenever I used to visit the studio, John would always treat me with such warmth and gentleness. It felt good. Even though, it also felt wrong to receive this type of attention from a stranger when I had a loving husband back home. Dan had gone out of station for a work-related thing. I thought that instead of being alone at home, I should head to the studio. I got ready, putting a bit extra than I would have normally put in. I picked a cute dress and also applied my favorite red lipstick. I told myself, I'm doing it for me, but a part of me knew that I was lying. I went to the studio and found John there. He was surprised to see me. I told him that I would like to draw something here if that's all right with him. He said it was perfectly fine and we both took our seats. I was engrossed in the piece I was working on that I didn't realize when John came and stood behind me. It was only when he placed his hands on my shoulders that I looked up at him. Beautiful, he said. Oh, thank you, it isn't completed yet though, I thanked him. He laughed then. That piece is great, but I was talking about you. You look beautiful tonight, oh. I was stunned. Thank you, I guess, I told him quietly. I started feeling nervous suddenly. Even though I had a teeny tiny crush, as the kids today call it, it still felt inappropriate. John took my sketchbook from my hand and kept it on the side. He started massaging my shoulders. What are you doing? I whispered, my voice coming shaky. Just give you a massage, relax your shoulders for me. I didn't know if I was imagining it or his voice was more husky than normal. I told him it's not appropriate, but he wasn't letting it go. His hands went to my back. I haven't been intimate with Dan lately since he was always busy with his work, and I was always busy with the kids. We didn't spend time together like that anymore. So as John kept massaging me, I realized that I missed it, and now when I was getting it, I didn't want it to end. That night I made the biggest mistake of my life. I went to his home with him. My conscience knew that I was doing the wrong thing, but desire took over and conscience died. Don't get disgusted, but John gave me something I was missing. The way he touched me aroused the desire inside me. I slept with him. I came back home the next morning. I left John's house while he was sleeping. I couldn't look at anyone. I felt so horrible. John kept telling me how he couldn't get enough of me and wanted more time with me. But my guilt wouldn't let me spend more time with him. As I came to my home with memories of my family, the guilt increased tenfold. I'm a horrible woman, I told myself. I have a loving husband and a wonderful family. I shouldn't make such decisions. I did my household work and decided that I will never keep foot in that studio ever again. My thoughts got interrupted when I got a call from John. "Why did you leave like that?" he asked me. I told him that what happened between us can never happen again. He refused to let it go. He told me that if I didn't go back to his house, he would come to mine. John seemed the type of guy who would actually do it. I was sure he had my address from the information I put in the form when I joined his classes. I didn't want him to come to my home. I didn't want my neighbors to see him and ask questions. I didn't want to risk something like that, so I decided to go to his house and tell him face to face that whatever happened between us can never happen again. I reached John's house at 8 o'clock sharp. My resolution to tell him my decision dissolved when he opened the door and kissed me instantly. I wasn't used to this urgency and passion, and it felt so good. I feel awful for that. John treated me with such warmth, but at the same time he used to treat me with so much passion. I missed this passion with my husband. It was there in the beginning, but as responsibilities increased, it went away. "You could have it now," John told me, and even though I knew the right thing was to leave his place, I couldn't. I stayed there. I thought of giving myself one more night, and that would be it. The next morning, John woke up before me. "I can't have you running away again," he told me when I asked how he's up early. He brought me coffee and put my hair behind my ears in a soft touch. "I know you feel guilty because of this, but you don't have to," he told me. He explained to me how we all need something in our life to have some fun. "It's not right," I told him. He kissed me and asked if it felt wrong to me. I couldn't say yes. Being with John felt right in some way. He gave me passion and urgency. Maybe he was right and I did need it. I was always the dutiful wife. The good mother. I could have this for me just for a little while, I thought stupidly. I told John that if we agreed to continue this, we have to be secretive about it. We came to a conclusion as to how we will meet on days when Dan will be out for work. Dan wouldn't even notice this, I thought in my head. I left John's house and came to my home. Dan was going to come home that night. I did some cleaning around the house and then prepared dinner for him. Dan came home around evening. While we were having dinner, he told me that his mother's birthday was coming up and they were having a party at their villa. My mother-in-law's birthday has always been a huge celebration. The whole family, they have a pretty big family, comes together and celebrates it. Everyone loves it because it's those few times when the entire family comes together. I told him that I was going to get her birthday gift soon. The day of the family gathering came. I hadn't met John for over a week by that time. I got a message from him in the morning telling me that he wants to meet me. I told him that I couldn't meet that day as I had to go for some family event. He kept insisting that I go to his house, even for a little while. He was so persistent that I gave in and told him I'll be there. I made some excuse to Dan that I forgot to pick the birthday gift. I made my way to John's house. As soon as I made my way inside his house, he started kissing me. I kissed him back and we went to his bed. After an hour later, I realized that I had to rush back home as I needed to go to my in-laws' house as well. I rushed to my house. Dan reached the house 10 minutes after me. We got ready and went to their place. Dan told me that I looked really beautiful and the guilt came back. I smiled at him but felt awful. The evening was amazing. All of my in-laws are really warm and kind to me. They have always been kind to me since the beginning of my relationship with John. My mother-in-law told me that she's happy to see Dan so happy with me. She has always been a mother figure to me. Her being happy for us made me feel so regretful for what I'm doing with her son. We came back from their house. The guilt I was feeling overwhelmed me. I didn't realize it when I started crying. Dan asked me what was wrong. I told him that I missed the boys. It felt weird lying to the man I have spent 15 years of my life with. The guilt consumed me and I decided that I was never seeing John again. Giving in to the temptation felt good, but I cannot hurt Dan. I stopped texting John and stopped picking his call. I thought everything was going to get better, but I couldn't have been more wrong. One day, when I opened my text messages, I saw intimate pictures of me and John. The pictures were taken from an angle where it was clear that it was me. John had sent me this. He asked me to pay $50,000 or he would send the pictures to my husband. Hell, that bastard trapped me. I was so livid. How could he do this? But the fault was mine. I trusted a complete stranger and looked where it got me. Karma was a bitch, I was sure of it now. I didn't have the money he was asking for. I also don't want those pictures to break my family. If anyone has any suggestions as to what I should do, please leave in the comments. I'm in desperate need of help. Update. It has been more than 6 months. John kept blackmailing me initially, like someone said in the comments. I told him that I wasn't scared of him and I would take him to the police if he continued to harass me. It didn't work because he knew he found my weakness. I couldn't give him that much money even if I wanted to because I didn't have it. If I asked Dan for such a big amount suddenly, he would have figured something was going on. I asked John to give me some time to figure something out, but that bastard didn't listen to me. He sent those pictures to my house to scare me. He must have thought that I would get scared and give him the money instantly, but instead of me, Dan found that envelope. He was home early from work while I was at the grocery store. I came home to find him sitting with the envelope in front of him. I didn't understand what was going on, but one look at his face and I knew that he knew. I didn't even need to see the envelope, but I did. There was no point in lying anymore, so I told Dan the complete truth. I told him how guilty I felt. I couldn't stop the tears coming to my face. I begged him for his forgiveness, but he showed no signs of any emotions. He left the house shortly after that. I stayed awake waiting for him, but he never came back home. I texted him as to where he is. He wasn't picking up my calls or answering my texts. I contacted his friends, but no one knew where he went. I just received a text from him the next morning to never contact him again. Just like that, my whole life crumpled in front of me. It hurt a lot knowing I had no one to blame for it except myself. 2 days later, I got divorce papers from our lawyers. Dan had requested for full custody of the boys. I called him up, grateful when he picked up. I begged him to not do this. I asked him to not take the kids away from me. I can't let them get raised by a woman I hate so much, he said without any emotion. In all these years, he had never spoken to me like this. I knew I had up everything and there was nothing I could do to salvage it now. I got a call from the lawyers telling me to leave the house by the next morning as it was legally Dan's property. John called me once again trying to scare me, but I told him that I had already lost everything and to off. It felt slightly better. My sons refused to talk to me as well. Dan must have told them what had happened. No surprise that they hate me as well. I left the house in tears and have been living with my parents who also don't talk to me and have told me to find a place for myself as soon as possible. Anyone reading my story, I just want to tell you that even though giving in temptation feels so good, don't let your conscience die. I made that mistake and there isn't a moment in my life when I don't regret it. I accidentally cheated on my man just after we got our first baby. I have never felt so scared of losing anything in my life. I am afraid my fiancé will leave me and it is all my fault. It was an accident, I can swear it was, but I know how stupid that sounds. I need advice on what to do before I make the wrong move and lose it all. My fiancé, M30, and I, F28, welcomed our baby girl 5 months ago. It was the happiest moment of our lives and my fiancé's love for me grew even more. Everything is perfect, but I am scared my poor decisions will take it all away from me. I met my fiancé almost 10 years ago at my 18th birthday party. My parents were extremely strict and they never allowed me to go to parties or even throw parties. I lived a very normal life with my parents and my two sisters. Ever since I was a little girl, I counted the days to my 18th birthday because I knew turning 18 would give me a little bit of freedom. I had a friend named Anna. She was an only child, so she grew up with a lot of freedom. Anna promised to throw me a birthday party in her house. After a lot of persuasion, my parents gave me permission to go, but on the condition that I took my older sister with me. Anna dressed me up and even lent me her best dress. The party was nothing like I'd ever seen before, but something else caught my eye. My fiancé, Chris, was the center of attention at my own birthday party. I found him extremely confident and attractive, and so did everyone else. I was too shy to say hi to him, but Anna wasn't. After speaking to Chris, Anna told me she had a crush on him. I was surprised because my friend was never one to crush on a guy first. Chris was charming and snobbish at the same time, and these were qualities Anna was drawn to. 2 weeks after my party, I ran into Chris at the grocery store. He recognized me as the birthday girl, and from there, we started talking. I was extremely shy at first because I had no experience with boys, but Chris was warm and friendly, so it was much easier. Soon enough, Anna, Chris, and I became a trio. We did almost everything together. I knew I liked Chris, but I brushed it off because Anna already confessed her feelings for him to me. 1 year later, Chris and Anna started dating, and I decided to give them space because I did not want to be a third wheel. Chris and Anna dated for 1 more year, but something happened. Anna told me she got drunk at a party and cheated on Chris. I kept her secret from him, but Anna cheated on him many times after that. One day, Chris found out and they broke up. Anna blamed me for their breakup and accused me of telling him. I told her that wasn't true, but it fell on deaf ears. That was the end of our friendship. Anna moved out of town with her parents, and Chris went to New York to study law. I also got into college soon after that. 4 years later, I graduated from college and moved to New York for work. Coincidentally, I ran into Chris when he came to the boutique I worked in for shopping. I was really shocked to see him, and I could tell he was surprised too. We spent hours catching up and talking about life. It felt like I was in a dream. I could not believe that I ran into my old-time crush. I discovered that Chris was now a lawyer in a very successful firm, name withheld for personal reasons. He was earning 6 figures every month, and he was quite popular. Chris was from a rich family, and his parents were well-known people. I worked as a fashion designer in a luxury boutique, name withheld, and Chris would always find time to come see me. Months flew by, and soon, Chris and I were good friends again. After 1 year of flirting, Chris asked me out, and it was an instant yes. Our relationship became pretty serious, and we could not spend a day apart. I was the envy of his female colleagues because Chris never hesitated to bring me to his workplace. Life was good, and I was living the life I always wanted. A few months later, on my birthday, Chris gave me the sum of $500,000 as my birthday gift. I was so grateful because it was more than enough money for me to start my own boutique. 1 year later, my boutique was already running, and I had enough money to build 5 more. Chris was also promoted, and we earned more than enough money to take care of ourselves. Chris proposed to me a few weeks after his promotion, and I said yes instantly. I was so excited that I did not resist posting it on my Instagram account. Chris bought a house months later and asked me to move in. My parents wanted us to get married first, but I talked them out of it. I wanted the perfect wedding with Chris, so I did not want to rush it. I already met Chris Pattons by that time, and they were nice. They were also against us moving in together without getting married first. Chris told me his family was a very traditional family. Just like my family, they were strict. After a lot of persuasion, his parents did not have a problem with us moving in together. Life with Chris was great, and I fell in love with him every single day. He was caring, generous, and extremely loving. He treated me like I was the only woman in the world. Anytime we had disagreements, Chris would never raise his voice or try to snap at me. He was always calm and ready to listen to me first. Chris took care of me when I was sick and would miss work for me sometimes. I cherished every moment with him like it was the last because I never believed I deserved him. Some months later, we decided to have a baby. After weeks of trying, I got pregnant. Chris was overjoyed and I could see the excitement in his eyes when I broke the news to him. He did not let me do anything after that. I had a stress-free pregnancy and it was beautiful. When I gave birth to my daughter, Chris' love for me multiplied. I was insecure about my postpartum body, but it was never a problem for Chris. He took it upon himself to work out with me and get my confidence back. Our daughter was like the icing on the cake because we already had a happy life. She multiplied it for us. I posted a series of pictures and videos of myself with Chris and our daughter in a joint Instagram post with Chris. That was the beginning of my problems. I had just 1,000 followers on Instagram. When I made those posts, I didn't expect it to get as much engagement as it did. Chris was quite popular, but I did not think people would take an interest in his personal life. If only I did not make those posts, I'd not be in this predicament. 3 months after our daughter was born, Chris went on a work trip to Italy. He was not going to be back for 3 weeks. Parting with him for that long was hard for me, but I had no choice. He had to go to work. He already took weeks off work after I gave birth to our daughter. The first week without Chris was depressing and boring. I tried to focus on work and our daughter, but none of it seemed to excite me. I knew it was going to be difficult, but I never expected it to be as depressing as it was. Chris had spoiled me with his presence so much that I was too used to it. Before the work trip, the longest we had stayed apart was 3 days. Chris called me every day, but it was just not enough. I missed and craved everything about him. It was just the first week and it was already feeling like a month. One day, my personal assistant noticed my mood and invited me to a party. I was not used to partying, but she promised it would be a good distraction. I spoke to Chris about it and he encouraged me to go. He did not like the way I looked tired when he video called me. I dropped our daughter off at his mom's house before going to the party that night. I wore a black knee-length gown that was not too revealing. I was not looking for a partner, I already had one I was extremely proud of. I took just 1 drink at the party because I did not want to get drunk. After 2 hours, I was ready to get home and snuggle with my daughter. On my way out, I met a guy named Roy who was just as tall as Chris. He looked so much like my fiancé that I had to do a double take. The only difference was the eyes and face. Chris was also more muscular than him. To my surprise, Roy asked me if I wanted a drink. I politely declined, but then he insisted. I did not like the idea of a stranger buying me a drink, so I tried walking away, but Roy said something that made me stop. He told me he was Chris's friend and Chris asked him to keep me company. I found it weird because Chris had never introduced Roy to me before, but Roy said he was not based in New York. He went as far as telling me some things about Chris. I believed him because Chris was not one to speak to just anyone unless he knew them well. Roy bought me a drink and I made the mistake of drinking it. After another drink, I was dizzy and I had a headache. I told Roy I wanted to go home and he offered to take me home. I dozed off in the car and only woke up when Roy tapped me. He told me I was home already. He guided me out of the car, but I noticed that we were somewhere else. I asked Roy where we were at and he told me his car was faulty and he could not drive it further. I told him I would rather take a cab home and get to my daughter, but Roy said it was already too late for a cab. I thought about it for a while and gave in because I was feeling quite tired and weak. Roy guided me into what I later discovered was his house. I asked him for painkillers for my headache, but he gave me hot milk to drink. That relieved me a little. Roy showed me the room I would be sleeping in and I thanked him before closing the door. I felt comfortable because I believed he was Chris' friend. I tried calling Chris, but I discovered that my phone was dead. I wanted to take a shower, but had no clothes to change into, so I just laid on the bed and tried to get some sleep. Sometime into the night, Roy knocked on the door. I opened the door and found him standing there in just a towel. He was completely shirtless and his hair was wet. For some reason, he styled his hair just like Chris did. He already had an uncanny resemblance to Chris, but now, it seemed more defined. I asked Roy what he was looking for, and he told me he just wanted to grab his shirt. After grabbing his shirt, he asked me why I had not taken a shower, and I told him I did not have clothes to change into. To my surprise, he offered me his shirt and insisted I wore it. I still felt a little bit dizzy, so I decided to take a hot bath. While I was in the bath, Roy walked in completely naked. I was too stunned to say a word and too tired to move. He just quietly stood there and watched me for a long time. I snapped out of my trance and told him to get out. I kept thinking about Chris and how he would feel if he knew that I saw his friend naked. Roy ignored me, then proceeded to touch himself. He was masturbating in front of me. Imagine how confused I was at that sight. I was drunk, and seeing him do that felt wrong and exciting at the same time. It did not help that I had been sexually starved for over 3 weeks. Chris was extremely busy for 2 weeks before his trip. The temptation was too much, and then I found myself touching myself. It was wrong, I should not have done it, but I could not stop once I started. The worst part was that Roy and Chris looked almost similar. Soon enough, I thought I was looking at my husband touching himself, and then things escalated. Roy got into the tub with me and we had sex. The next morning, after I woke up with a stranger in bed with me, I knew I had made the biggest mistake of my life. My head felt like it was being stabbed with a knife. It was not just a hangover. I found out that Roy had spiked my drink with some sort of cannabis. The most shocking part is that Roy confessed that he was hired by someone to get me to cheat on my husband. He said his job was done and he left me in the house. I had consented. I knew I had consented because I still remember it all. Yes, he left me. That man drugged me, then ran away. I cheated on my husband. I thought I was having sex with my husband because the drug made the similarities between them more defined. I went back home and I felt like a cheat. I could not even look at my daughter because I felt so much guilt. Chris treated me like a queen and I broke his trust. I should not have gone to the party at all. I didn't even have time to think about who hired Roy. I was too depressed to think about myself. It's been a week since I cheated on my husband and a week till he'll be back home. I don't know what to do. I have ignored all his calls because I don't have the courage to hear his voice. I don't even know how I'll face him in a week's time. People of Reddit, I need your advice urgently. It was an accident, but I still cheated. Should I tell him the truth or lie? I cannot live with myself. The guilt is tormenting me. Please tell me what to do. I'm helpless. Update. Hi everyone, it's been 5 months and I wanted to tell you all how it's going. Some of you in the comments called me a fool. I deserve it. Immediately Chris got back, I told him the truth like most of you suggested. I don't think I had ever seen such disappointment and hurt in his eyes. He stared at me for a long time without saying a word. It felt like I had lost all his respect. After some time, he quietly went to his study and locked the door for hours. It was the most tormenting period of my life. I cried out my eyes, but I never knocked on the door. That would have been very selfish of me. He had every right to be angry, so I let him be. I was ready to accept whatever step he wanted to take. Even if he wanted to leave me, I would not hate him. I brought shame upon myself. I was gullible. 2 days after that, Chris forwarded a message to me. In the message, someone sent Chris pictures of me leaving the party with Roy. The person also told Chris what happened. Chris was a lawyer, so he talked to his friends, and they traced the message to Anna. Yes, Anna. Anna hired Roy because she wanted to ruin our relationship. I was so angry that I searched for Roy with the help of Chris, and then he led us to Anna when we threatened to take him to the authorities. When we finally met Anna and demanded answers, she accused me of taking Chris away from her. She felt like I told Chris she cheated years back, so she wanted to pay me back by setting me up. Roy had switched off my phone and Anna was the one who told him personal things about Chris, so I would believe him. Apparently, she had seen all my Instagram posts with Chris and got jealous. There was nothing I could do because I had fallen into her trap. I got home that day feeling defeated, but what was more shocking was that Chris asked for a break. He moved out of the house and we did not speak for 2 months. I lived a miserable life in those 2 months, but my daughter made it better. After 2 months, Chris finally forgave me and he told me he loved me so much he could not lose me. I was shocked, happy and grateful because I never thought he'd come back. We got married 2 months later with our daughter as the little bride. She could hardly walk. My life is back to being beautiful and I have my husband by my side. I hope my story inspires someone and makes them more self-aware. I was lucky to have a husband that was ready to forgive me. Thank you to everyone that commented and advised me to tell my husband the truth. I don't know what would have happened if I didn't.